This is the 5-Minute Writing Corner with Troy Bernardo. Characterization, I believe, is one of the most important elements of story. It's not all you need to write well, but I can tell you unrealistic characters with erratic, nonsensical motivations are going to be boring to read and to write. Now, I want to stress here, this isn't all you need to tell a good story, and I can't go over everything in a 5 to 10 minute video. So what I'm going to do is give you a tool I use to make my characters feel more real and grounded. And this is going to actually be something that a lot of Dungeons and Dragons players out there might recognize. But the beginning thing I use is the character alignment chart. And it looks something like this. So just to quickly review it, we have lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, lawful neutral, true neutral, chaotic neutral, lawful evil, neutral evil, and chaotic evil. And we're going to dive into what each of these really mean, just kind of briefly, so you can get an idea and a feel for what this is. So to start though, I think we all know what good, neutral, and evil means. I'll skip the real explanation of what that is here. However, the term lawful is a little less understood, especially by, like I said, non-D&D players. It isn't used to describe someone who abides the letter of the law like a lot of people initially think. Instead, this just means the character has a structure they follow throughout the story. These characters have rules, hierarchies, a chain of command, etc., things they follow. Great example of lawful evil, that's going to be Darth Vader. You know, he uses rules and laws to dominate and manipulate others until he completes his character arc, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's a great example of a lawful evil character. The Empire being the law that he follows, not necessarily a moral law. The opposite is going to be the chaotic character who hates bureaucracy, rejects society, does more either good or evil through whatever means of unorganized chaos they can. You know, there is no structural hierarchy. Great example of chaotic good is Jack Sparrow, right? Although he's a pirate, overwhelmingly throughout the series, he does what's the right thing, the good thing, quote unquote. The middle, neutral, is simply someone who will do whatever they want in that moment, not necessarily abiding by chaos or law. You know, a neutral good will do good either through structure or chaos, while the neutral evil will just do the opposite, right? I'll put a link in the description to more information on character alignment, as I don't want to spend the entire video explaining it, but instead want to use examples and demonstrate how we can use this as writers and creators, right? So I don't want to spend the entire time just going over this, but a basic kind of broad, stroke information is helpful. I want to start by saying that I know this can be rigid and a little confusing at first, but a story that uses these structures is going to already put you ahead of other writers for a few reasons. The first being automatically, you know how your character is going to behave in any given situation when you pick a square. Most newer writers put their characters into scenes and they kind of just act randomly, right? They don't know how their characters are supposed to behave, and they end up just doing things that don't really make a lot of sense to the outside person. This is such a wild background. Now keep in mind, it's okay to have a character change or evolve as a story goes on. They can even devolve. But having them in a square at the start is going to help you make sense of what they should do next. You know, if you have a character that trusts society's structures, something significant needs to happen to that character for them to completely change, why they don't anymore. They can't just randomly just not trust society's structures. No, that's the end. No more questions. We need something to occur. And a great example of this is actually going to be from the TV series Game of Thrones. Specifically, let's go ahead and start with Jon Snow, right? Who's getting his own spin-off show soon. Also, just for the record, if we have to align Jon Snow, he's going to be a lawful good, as he trusts organizations like the Night's Watch and follows rules and laws throughout the series. As annoying as sometimes it can be, right? Truly, it can be kind of an aggravating situation, but what motivates him, although once again is annoying, is law, duty. More importantly, he really wants to do the right thing, and we expect that out of him as a character. And this is why, and really quickly, I can't believe I have to say this, but spoiler alert, if you haven't watched a show that ended like 5 years ago at this point, I still should say spoiler alert. It's why killing Daenerys Targaryen to protect the realm was such an important move for him to stop a mad queen, right? We expect that out of a character who's going to do the good thing, right? Instinctually, we knew he wasn't going to be able to sit by and let people be ruled by a crazy person. That's not who Jon Snow is. Conversely, Daenerys Targaryen's sudden change of character alignment in the ultimate episode of the show is what people disliked about the series. A lot of people didn't see that as something Daenerys could do. Her general alignment through the show was more of a chaotic good. She generally did the right thing, even against society's expectations and overall interests sometimes. If we need some examples, she disbanded slavery, she locked her own dragons away for society's safety, went on to fight the White Walkers as opposed to taking her seat at the Iron Throne. She was regularly putting good first. And by using this already built-in system of alignment, I want to stress we're already halfway there to making sense of what people in our own stories would do in a given situation. Let's go back to this evolving and devolving thing I mentioned earlier. Sometimes we call those character arcs. When we think about a movie like The Dark Knight, which most people automatically think of the Joker, but actually, believe it or not, he's pretty consistent through the whole film, The Dark Knight, right? He's pretty much squarely in chaotic evil. He's doing chaotic stuff in the evil realm. But let's look at how Harvey Dent devolved to Two-Face because of the death of his girlfriend. Now, he falls from a lawful good, putting characters away in a structured system, the courts, to a neutral evil, relying only on a coin flip to kill his victims. Right? Significant change there. Those changes in squares can happen, but we need a reason for them to happen. People don't just wake up and be good or evil one day. Generally you're aligned in some way. Darth Vader didn't save Luke because he wanted to be good. He saved him because he was his son. There was a significant reason that occurred. We saw a true moment of humanity in him in that, right? We saw a character change. Two-Face didn't turn bad because of traffic or a bad day at the office. He was manipulated after a traumatic event by the Joker. So that change and that shift makes sense, and there needs to be a reason things happen, and our audience needs to understand whatever those reasons are. I want to stress here that I'm not just saying this works. This is something I utilize myself. My first one-act play I ever wrote won first place in a national competition because of the system. It really does work, and I love that's the video it shows. I put three brothers together in a room with different alignments and let tension fill the story. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. This thing is growing faster than I truly ever expected it to. And thank you so much for that. I'll be doing more on characters in the coming weeks. And more importantly, keep on writing.